give me concept, but from there it's mostly conversational. Cool. You ready? Hello and welcome to the Preferred Contractors podcast, where we give you actionable steps to grow your contracting business. I'm your host, Jordan Harrison, and on today's episode, we're going to get into probably the three biggest online marketing channels that as a contractor in general, you must be on. You've got to be on. If you're not, these are the three, but they're also some of the hardest, and they continue to get harder as Google gets more complex, as you've got crazy things like AI software going out there doing crazy stuff. And anyway, so I got Tim Brown on today from Hook Agency, who is a SEO Web Design and Google Ads specialist. Got a great team over there at Hook Agency. So I'm excited to have him on and really dive into all three of these parts.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm pretty stoked to be here. I actually believe that every single component that you layer onto your marketing, if it's done well, like it starts to have a compounding effect. You know what I mean? It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 3, because there's so many things. Let's say if you're doing Google ads and you add SEO, there's so many things that it positively impacts. And the easiest example of that is like website design, right? Like if you're sending a bunch of people, let's say you're doing Facebook ads and Google ads, and you're sending people to a okay website versus you're sending people to an amazing website that's very persuasive and that makes people want to do business with you, you're going to get so much more out of your Google ads and your Facebook ads and whatever else you're doing, right? So to me, the chemistry of these different components together just is what's more likely to make your company blow up. And before all these things, like I always like to say, the business has to be good too, man. Yeah. Like you can't just market. Like I've always I've had this like ethical conundrum of like, what if I'm marketing a company that sucks? Like I'm very diligent now about trying to make sure that we're not, you know what I mean? I try to like kind of filter companies a little bit based on, I think that they are like a customer service driven organization. I can tell that by their reviews. I can tell that by the things I can see from the outside as far as their reputation goes. So the other chemistry here is customer service, which I don't have control over, and you don't have control over for any of our like marketing clients, right? And but that's a weirdly important piece, like, right? Like if you do all this marketing, you shouldn't just layer on tens of thousands of dollars of marketing if you don't have your customer service down to the point where you're getting at least like 9 out of 10 are 5-star reviews, right? Like you should watch it a little bit. You should just spend the money on making sure your service is better. And that's a weird additional component besides just do all the marketing stuff,
Yeah. And I think I've dealt with, when I had my marketing agency, I dealt with a lot of clients that way that we brought on by mistake, right? You bring them on and you're bringing them great stuff. You're booking appointments. You're helping them get people in the door. But at the end of the day, like when they answer the phone, you're cringing because they're like, hey, how you doing? Now I'm from Alabama, so we talk a little different, but hey, how you doing? Hey, oh yeah, we got, so just even that, the little things.
The way you sound right there, that sounded better. Like that sounded friendly. Like I'm like, dude, I've listened to some phone calls where people are like almost like antagonizing the caller. And so number one, be friendly. Number two, like get the key details and make sure they feel taken care of, like, yeah, agreed. The phone call stuff will blow your mind. Like I'm guessing you've done that too, where you're recording calls for various reasons, but like, yeah, it's hard to listen to sometimes a little bit.
Yeah. And as a consumer, I will say this, I've talked about this before on the podcast on 2 different occasions. I'm a homeowner, so I need, contractors come out to my place to get lawn care. Mm-hmm. I called 12 people, 3 people answered. Only one of them was friendly. Mm-hmm. They got my business.
Yeah.
Same thing with garage.
Yeah, Dimitri was that. Dude, oh my God. Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I see people doing as a homeowner is like solving it, but barely solving it and thinking that I care the most about price. You know what I mean? But what if I would rather spend 5 times more money and have it completely solved? You know what I mean? not all of us, and particularly on the low end, like I'm thinking about pest control. I had the third company finally solved it. Everyone else sold me something for like $200. The last guy said, all right, it's like $1,800 or something, but like, we're going to do all this, and this. And it was completely solved. And I felt confident in that based on like a little bit more of an assessment. So like, not everyone wants the cheapest price. Some of us want our like problem completely solved. So like, that's another like interesting like data point. And yeah, Dimitri said recently, he's like, it's not as competitive as you think being a roofing company, because Dimitri Lipinski, Roofing Insights, because like half these people aren't answering their phones. Half these people are barely offering like a solid inspection. And like, there's basically just some really basic stuff that's not happening on most of the companies. And so it's not as competitive as you think. You might actually be competing with 3 people, but 2 of them are barely trying, or 5 people and 2 of them are barely trying. So you're really only competing with 3 or 2 other people. And then it's like, just be good at customer service. Your marketing dollars will go so much further, I think, is the key point here, if you are offering great customer service.
Yep. And that's one thing that the marketing people can't control. And so and that's the hardest I'll tell you that's the hardest to tell business owners, like, hey, you need to improve on this. It's not marketing, but you've got to improve on this part in order for your dollars to work. So, well, look, before we went down.
Yeah, that's a really hard conversation. And like I'll just throw out here too, like if you're a little bit like, you're always being a little crunchy towards your marketing people, like you're always being a little like, oh, where's the result? And like making it all about them and not taking any ownership at all, like you're less likely to get that feedback, because I'm scared to give it to you. So like, be friendly with your marketing people too. And it's like, a lot of people are using other marketing people besides you or I, or Kyber, or whatever, but they ultimately are stopping themselves from getting good feedback because they're in like competition mode with their own resources. Like, you're competing, you got this, I get it. Like, contractors and roofers sometimes go in this mode where we're all like, because I'm competing with the insurance agencies, I'm competing with all these other lifted truck guys and the storm chasers. So I'm kind of mad and intense. And then like, I'm stopping myself from getting the feedback from my consultants or marketing resources that actually I could use if I just said, hey, is there anything else I could be doing better to get a better result here? I always say chase money with effort when it comes to marketing or anything really. Like, if I have a consultant and I'm thinking about spending $30,000 on a consultant next year, that feels like a lot to me for like leadership and traction implementation. So I'm thinking about it. But like, if I do that, guess what? I'm going to spend extra time making sure that like everything is diligently done for myself, anything I can control on the interior side, because it's a lot of money. So I just need to make sure it's well spent. So follow money with effort so that your money is well spent.
Absolutely. So let's get into marketing people. Oh yes, be nice to them because they'll be nice to you. So let's get into web design real quick. Like, so let's go over. I know I've seen you post out a checklist on your content. Your organic Facebook content on your own page is phenomenal, and there's always great stuff going out there. And so let's go over kind of if you got a offhand checklist in your head, what makes a great website? Because I know not everybody can hop into Hook Agency and get one of your just killer websites. So what kind of makes a good one?
Yeah. So we have something we call it the winning website formula, 5 parts. And you don't have to use a fancy agency to get these. You could go on your website and make sure that this is done right now. Strong visual call to action. So a few examples of that might be that you have a button up top on the top right that says like get a quote or whatever your key call to action is. I think keeping that somewhat consistent is good too. So if you're saying get a quote here, you shouldn't be saying get an estimate. You should be saying one thing on your call to actions. I like a form, especially for home services businesses like roofers and other items, but like I like a form pretty quick, right when the person lands on the page, because then it's like I don't have to go searching. You're not that interesting. Sorry. Some people just want to turn into a customer. Sorry. Some people just want to be a customer. They don't want to have to read your about me content for like 10 paragraphs, right? Call to actions on the interior pages. So like at the end of every single interior page, I like a big visual call to action right above the footer. So that's always available. Another thing I've been doing lately is like a little bit more like prominence on the phone number, maybe even like, I think next level might be like a little emanation from the phone number, like the icon of, it's like kind of emanating. I like that look. I like things that just draw attention. What do I want them to do? I want them to call or submit a form, and I want those to be just super obvious. 2, so strong visual call to actions is 1. 2, testimonials and other trust factors. I put out a post yesterday, the trustimonial. I'm trying to brand that and get it into the lingo. So you can, if you feel like starting to use the word trustimonial, go for it. It's just, you got a picture of the person who left it, 5 stars, where it was left. So the Google logo to give it credibility, third-party credibility, an abbreviated version of the testimonial. No one's going to read, once again, 5 paragraphs, right? So like 3 sentences, and make sure you put the real name in there. I get the like privacy thing, but no one trusts a homeowner in Wabasha,
Yes.
like that's not a thing. People don't trust that. So 3, other trust factors, things like awards, badges, like the Google 5-star thing everywhere. Like I love that. Back in the day we had like Angie's List Super Service Awards, like anything that's like kind of like third-party credibility with a brand they might know. And that gets us to a little bit of a like contentious topic, which is BBB. I think it still carries weight in homeowners' minds. I think people still look at that brand, and the reason they are, pushy on sales or whatever has nothing to do with the fact that they still carry weight in homeowners' minds, and you should use it if you've got it. And I'm not telling you to go sign up for the $70 a month or whatever, but I'm saying if you are, use it on your website, right? 3, emotionally persuasive images and headlines. So I say make your ideal customer the hero and help them imagine themselves working with you. So I like to think about, like, we always pick our clients' brains in that kickoff and say, like, what does that look like in that moment of peak emotional enjoyment? What does that look like? What are they doing? If you had to imagine your homeowner right now just experiencing the absolute pinnacle of the enjoyment of your service, what does it look like? And sometimes it doesn't include a roof. There's no roof in sight. It's just somebody in their kitchen, just like with their kid, I'm selling that. I'm peace of mind. Maybe there's a storm outside in the window, you know what I mean? Like, but I've got peace of mind. We're warm and comfy in here. And then headlines, like I always kind of push people, like, can you put you more often, the word you, on your headlines and in your content? Like if you can, it gets more persuasive quick. Like try to start your headline, like go look at your headline on your website now and like the main one, see if you can push you at the beginning. So if you're saying we're the most trusted contractor in Milwaukee, maybe you say you want to work with a high touch customer service contractor who does what they say they're going to do, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you just push on this idea of like whatever you're trying to get across about the company, you phrase it more as the benefit, not, so that's an old school like copywriting mode, which is benefits, not features.
Yeah, and I think some people confuse the hero part. They think, well, I'm doing all the work, right? Now I should be the hero, but it's not the case. People don't care about the work. They care about them being, they made the decision to call you and they solved their problem by calling you. And I think that mindset is hard to get people to realize that. And and the ones that do, obviously they crush it. So I love that tidbit there. And that's great there. And that's number 4, right? You got 5? Or is that 5?
So that is actually that's 3.
Oh, it's 3. Let's keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. 4, an emphasis on search engine optimization throughout the process. So thinking about SEO, that just means making sure there's places for more content that don't feel overwhelming. We use things like FAQs at the bottom that kind of open and close. just to be able to build more content onto those pages. The other piece is just making sure that there's location landing pages or service niche landing pages. So if they're doing like metal roofing and, different kinds of products that people are actually searching, that there's a page for each of those. And then 5 really clear differentiating features or unique value propositions. So what can competitors not say? That's the real crux. Because everyone, I'm like, what are your main features? And they're always like customer service, quality products, our 5-year warranty. And then you're just like, okay, so I've talked to a lot of contractors, and the last guy said that too. So how can we drill it down a little bit more? When you say you've got customer service, what's a specific thing that you do? Oh, we text them right before we come every single time. We text them a picture of the rep that's coming out. And then it's like, okay, that's a differentiating feature. Like, we're texting you communication with pictures throughout the process. Like, that's a weirdly specific, but the best differentiating features are weirdly specific.
Yep, that goes to the Todd Brown and his formula was a primary promise and understanding that the unique selling proposition of understanding that all you need is that one detail that makes you different, that's going to attract the right people, and they just and diving into that customer service part is hard. And some people just sometimes it takes the outside person to look in, because I struggle with that. Somebody goes, "What makes Preferred Contractors podcast community better?" And I'm like, "Crap, I don't know." Sometimes, or I'm like, well, I got to really think about it. Well, we're providing a lot of great educational content. Well, what specifically? Okay, well, we're giving you. So I get that, and I think that's something that people should do first before anything else.
Yep, and then choose something, get specific, try, and then keep driving, because you can't steer a parked car. So like ultimately, like, move forward confidently with whatever you choose. And then this is just copywriting, right? So you can go back on your website and change out icon and change out text later. But I like to kind of push people a little bit in that process, and our team pushes people a little bit to kind of drill down there.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's number 5.
Sweet. And y'all have that on your website, right? People can check that out.
Yeah. So if you just Google winning website formula, will be the top result. And so coined, I like a coined term. That's why I'm going to do a blog post about trustimonial, because I like a coined term. It's also good for your business. And ultimately, if you figure out what people really like about your company, you can make those into like little, because I know that this is stuff that I think helps people understand our value too. And it's kind of good to kind of come up with sticky terms and titles for stuff, I think.
Yep, I agree. So we got web design down. SEO is a beast, so I don't want to dive too deep into that, because you could literally do.
Yeah, it's boring. Like, to be real with you, contractors find it boring. Like when we talk about SEO, but it's not boring. They Ask, You Answer, which is Marcus Sheridan's book. And what I've been doing is kind of like, this is a gateway drug for SEO. So I'll give you the gateway drug for SEO because it's fun. Write down your objections that people have for your service. Write them down. Get good at writing them down. And maybe I have like a Google sheet. Objection. The next column could be, should I make a video? The next column is, the video is complete. So, and I've been doing this like just around the neighborhood without any, because you and I, like, and everyone probably watching this, you do sales. You have to have these conversations. You're already doing them anyways. And in my company, it allows me to then proliferate out our line of approach to these types of things for our other salespeople in a way that is more accurate, because it's coming directly from me, the owner. You know what I mean? And I'm saying essentially like, hey, why don't you do other CMSs, for example? Why do you only work on WordPress? Now, that's not an objection we get that often, because I think a lot of our customers don't care. But I could make a video about, hey, this is why we only do WordPress websites. You could do it like why, and I don't know what the objections are that you get the most. Maybe it's we don't have a claim on our siding, but we have it on our roofing. Or why do you replace flashings and why are you more expensive? That's a really good question. You're more expensive, right? So I would put that you're more expensive as the first in the first column. Then I'd say absolutely I should make a video, and then I'd go shoot the video with honestly the first time you do it doesn't even have to be formulated, and then you could get better at it because I've done like 3 videos now about why we're more expensive, and I feel like it's like a fun experience because you're getting better at sales by basically like role playing with yourself. So like I'm suggesting you do this, and I'm suggesting every contractor that's watching this just really get into writing down objections. And it kind of goes to that old sales book, like Get to Know or whatever it is. There's a book called like Get to Know. And it's basically this idea of like, you want somebody to say no to you because the next question you get to ask is why. Like you unlock the no with why. And then they give you more context, and then you answer that context on videos and in the future. So you're role playing with yourself. You're doing sales role play with yourself on video, and then the next time you have that conversation, you're clarifying your thoughts. It's just like writing. Whenever I write for our company, I always I'm clarifying my thoughts. So I'm getting better at communication. I'm role playing the ideas. So that's my gateway drug to SEO. Why? Because content and creating content is a big piece to what gets your traffic on Google. And even if you make that video, you could have somebody else write the content for the blog post. And that's something that we do a lot for ourselves. And we also can do it. And I think maybe your company can do that too for people that make videos. We can turn it into content. So ultimately, video is just a great, easy way to get into content. And it's fun when it's a little sale. When I think a lot of entrepreneurs and have sales bends. So this is more fun because it's a little bit more related to sales, and then it can definitely positively affect your SEO.
Yeah, and I agree. And the hard part is that video part, though. Getting those guys to hop on video and have that conversation. I know I've had Patrick Carr and TJ McCormick both on here, 2 content kings that that really harp on that part there. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you this: I did a search in Birmingham, where I'm at. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, looking for pest control. Matter of fact, you talked about pest control earlier because we got to hire somebody. And I looked at their pages and social media, and the amount of content that's coming out of there was like 0 on the top people, social media, whatever. And I'm just like, man, all it would take.
You're just trying to see if it's not a ghost town.
Yeah,
like, that's what I think people are looking at, just to make sure it's not like dead, like, and it's like a legit company.
And so I think that just helps put the icing on the cake there. And it's it's hard, but yeah. So SEO, content-based, content-driven now. And there's 3 main components, right? There's you got offsite SEO, you got on-site.
So you got links from other websites back to yours, the actual content on the site, and like, is there landing pages for services? Is there blog posts for these types of like objection handling content and like keyword driven content? Because what you're looking for is money keywords that will make you money if you rank for them. And there are people, the best part about SEO, it's when somebody is looking for you, you're there. That's the best part. And a good part about PPC too. But like ultimately, like, you want to be there when someone's looking. So that's why it's cool. That's why people spend a lot of money on it, even though it's annoying and it's hard. And Google, why are you so difficult?
Yeah.
Is because it's being there when people are looking. And then there's technical SEO, which I sometimes believe, like, kind of categorize, also including like on-page SEO, but they might be separate a little bit. But technical SEO is like things like we're coding stuff right, and the website is fast. So maybe like something you could go look as like a page speed check on your website, and maybe implement caching. There's caching plugins on WordPress. So things that you can do yourself are things like plugins and making sure everything's like, not super slow and that the site is somewhat intuitively organized. That's good for Google. And you can't go too far into technical SEO without starting to lose people. So I'm not going to go too far into that, but you need to have links from other websites back to yours. You need great content on your website in the form of landing pages and blog posts, I think. I can talk about that all day about like why I think blogging is good, but some people disagree. Some even SEOs kind of disagree with that a little bit, like is the importance of blogging. So I like, it's an interesting topic too, but I think it's more interesting for you and I and less interesting for your audience. So I won't go too far into that.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about there's a lot of AI softwares out there that are claiming to write these great blog posts, but I think Google, the last time I read, is counteracting that, saying
so there's a new update this week or this past week called the helpful content update. And you kind of want to listen, even though Google is always putting out press releases to try to like muddy the waters of the truth. And I really think Google is like literally trying to get people to act in a certain way with the way that they position things. But you always want to look at where they're trying to go, which they might be still a couple of years off from really being able to filter all that AI content, especially as AI content gets good. But you always want to look at where they're going. And you don't want to, if you have a real business, let's say a growing, solid business that's going, you don't want to be building your house on sand, right? Sorry, I grew up very like
I get it,
biblical or whatever. Like, you don't want to build your house on sand. So you don't want to build your company on this like fleeting thing. That's why I don't encourage people to do the like, let's put out 10 fake Google business profiles. I believe that's building your house on sand because it does work. But it's always going to be combated by Google, and it's kind of it's a short-term strategy potentially. But I mean, hey, I get being scrappy. I just don't want to do something that's going to negatively impact me later, because Google does sometimes go and like, if anything is in that account, they'll like chop it off sometimes. If they get wind that they're fake or it's not real stuff, they'll sometimes, so you could get your main business listing pulled down because you're doing all these other ones that are like, in areas where you want to rank on the map. So I just think you should build on long-term strategies that are in alignment with what Google says, even if you're a little bit on the aggressive side of what Google, like I'm pushing, but I'm watching myself that I'm not doing anything that's like crazy different than what I think Google is trying to create. I build links. Google has since 2010 said like guest posts don't work. Oh, they work. But ultimately on the content side, like that's a big focus for our company, is to try to make more high quality content that's written by humans that actually has some, like, we're a niche company, right? We work with only contractors and mostly roofers. So it allows us to go a little deeper in the content. And I want there to be an angle to the content, which it's hard for an AI software to reproduce an angle and perspective and that type of thing at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the unique about you guys is the fact you have humans that write your articles and you are niched down into that. And you only handle, but as far as I know, you only handle Google or SEO Web Design and PPC. You don't dive into the Facebook ads or YouTube ads. You really specialize on what is the moneymaker for contractors. And this is it. That trio is the moneymaker. For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Make your point. I was going to
jump. I was just going to say, like, always be looking at what's your RO, what's the closed deals from that lead source, not just lead quantity. Because that's where I look at like Facebook ads. Like, I'm not saying we'll never touch Facebook ads ever, but like that's why we focus on the place we do, because I really believe that the most revenue comes from there, not the most leads. Because sometimes people are like post these crazy screenshots on social media with like $20 leads and stuff like that. But I'm just like, what's the quality? What's the quality? Talk to me about the quality. Where, like, what percentage of these are in closed deals? And if they are talking about that, well, basically, I think some of them do. And I would encourage more of them to focus on like closed deals. Basically, that's what matters. The closed deals. It doesn't matter if you get 50 leads if none of them close. And if you got 10 leads from Google and you get 2 closed deals or whatever, then that's a better deal, even if you spent more per lead.
Yep. I agree. So let's jump into the paid ads then real quick. As far as Google's concerned, kind of where should contractors really start? Let's say they're just starting to invest on that side. They do have a decent website. Maybe they don't have a hook website, but they got a good one. And they're ready to start running PPC. So where do they kind of start and where do they kind of stack on from there?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think is always like, I'm not saying in order of what you should do if you have like, let's say a couple $1,000 budget, but like one of the things that you should do no matter what is probably remarketing. So when people go on your website, that when they go around the internet later, they see the ad. So that's one, like, I want to always have remarketing going, right? Because it's kind of like pursuing somebody that's already a little bit in your funnel, not just going after random people. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I like pushing on the people that are already in the funnel. Like you and I could probably close more deals today if we stopped looking for the next prospect and tried to like really nurture the 5 people that like we know kind of want this, right? So, and I might not do it because I'm a marketing guy and I really like marketing and I like creating the next opportunity, but we would do it. We would get more revenue if we did. And I think that this is like that principle applied to marketing, that do remarketing, retargeting, do it on Google and Facebook. I really think like ideally you're doing some retargeting on both. You just want to follow them around the internet basically. Then I think I've found out the last couple of years how ridiculously important structure is in your ad account. So like, I know that that's a difference for us is structuring the account well, cleanly. It may not seem very important, but when you have ad groups going after, let's say if you have roofing and then you have metal roofing, and then you have commercial roofing, the fact that in metal roofing in the general roofing campaign that you're doing metal roofing as a negative keyword in that campaign. It's important, like these structural things, it keeps you from spending money for the metal roofing in the general roofing campaign, which you need alignment. You want the ad to match up with the keyword to match up with the landing page. So I think it's structure and then alignment between the keyword that they're searching, the ad matches that and is like sticky and is like well written. You want them to be custom written. And then the landing page delivers on that. So like you're not going to clicking an ad with general roofing and then it goes to a metal roofing page or, like vice versa. So that kind of alignment all the way through, and weirdly structure is important because the buckets, when they're clean and they're well structured in the ad account, you're essentially allowing Google's AI to help you. So I guess I'm like weirdly, like last couple of years, I've gotten really into like structure matters. So you can let Google's AI help you make sure there's alignment between keywords, ads, and the landing page. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like focus on this now. I think it's just be clear, not clever with your ad copy. Like it's fun to try to write ads that like, ooh, this is a tagline. This is funny. It's like, but Google ad clickers are a different breed. Like it's like, they're just like, they're really not paying attention.
Yeah.
Is what I think. It's like a simpler, the average person, because you and I might even skip ads, right? I might skip ads. I did for a long time because I like was only SEO and really pushed on that. But the person who just clicks that might be a little older, might be a little less tech savvy, and they might just be in a rush because I don't care and I'm not thinking about it. That's me sometimes, right? So a little bit in a rush. They don't need your clever stuff. Make sure it's really clear, but make sure maybe you have a little bit of trust factors there too, like 5 stars or fastest 1-day install. Like just focus on the stuff that's like really sticky and easy and not clever.
Yes, I agree, man. Well, look, dude, I know we could probably go all day long on all of this stuff. And me and you would nerd out on it. And I would sit there and listen all day long and go back. But I think listening to you break down each component, because there's just people that just don't understand it, right? And I think understanding what each component does, how you need to stack them, and really, I truly believe that needs to be the first trio, and that's your moneymaker for any contracting business. Now, I think social media content, you should be shoving that down people's throat. I think that's a good way to start. But if you're ready to really
It's
scale
easy.
them,
It's kind of free too, right?
yeah. Well, so even then, but when you're ready to put money into it and you've got a good business structure, these are the way to go for sure. Cool, man. Well, if somebody wants to work with you at Hook Agency and your amazing team over there, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
hookagency.com and Hook Agency all over social. And I'll just invite people to follow me on Facebook because I post a lot of memes. Facebook.com/invigorated. So Facebook.com/invigorated. Follow me, and I promise to post at least a couple memes a week.
Awesome. Good. I'll put all that in the show notes for everybody. They can check it out. And Tim, man, I appreciate you taking time today. I know you're on tour with One Industry, One Model. So I know you're checking out. That's been going pretty well.
Yeah, it's been going pretty well. We're in Charlotte next in a few weeks, the beginning of September. And then we're in Dallas in the beginning of October. So check out those. I think that those are the dates. Anyways, they're coming up. OneIndustry1Model.com. It's a lot about financing, but there's other topics, sales, leadership, and the future of roofing. So if somebody's interested in those, Charlotte and Dallas are coming up.
Sweet. Awesome. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Tim, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah. And thank you guys again for listening to Preferred Contractors Podcast. As always, you can hop into our Preferred Contractors community group that's on Facebook. Just search for Preferred Contractors in the group section up there at the top. We're pretty much the first one that pops up. Hop in there. We've got all kinds of content coming out on business development as well as marketing. And of course, we got the podcast here with great guests like Tim. So thank you guys again for listening. Till next time.